peeps. Today we're going to discuss the need we all have to stop putting other people, and especially LDS singles, into boxes, and how, when LDS singles do this, it leads to 10x growth in our singles groups. Join the Journey Radio starts right now.
Welcome to the infusion of positive energy into the lives of single Latter-day Saints everywhere. This is Joy in the Journey Radio.
And welcome back to another wonderful, splendiferous, joyous episode of Join the Journey Radio. I am Lance, your host for Join the Journey Radio, and this is episode number 410, Ditch the Boxes. That's right, we're going to ditch the boxes, and we're going to talk a little bit today about what those boxes are that we need to ditch, because there's obviously some boxes that we need to keep, right? Like moving boxes are good to keep. Like I always keep the boxes. I buy something and it comes in a box. I always keep the box because it's going to come in handy a little bit later, especially when I move. Those boxes are good boxes, right? Boxes we use to keep things in. As a sort of a storage solution. Those are good boxes. The boxes I'm talking about are different boxes, right? But we'll get into that in a moment. First, if you're joining us for the live stream here today, by all means, join the chat. Come into the chat, put your, introduce yourself, tell us where you're watching the program from, and help us get an idea of, where our audience is today. If you're watching this after the live stream, which means you're watching the video that we've posted upon one of our social media channels, then, leave a comment down below the video. Tell us where you're watching the video from. That will help us with the algorithms to push more of our content out and help more Latter-day Saint singles everywhere. Today we're going to talk about something that has been on my mind for quite some time. And it's been pushed more to the forefront by certain events that have happened recently. I've been trying to get involved with an effort that's currently underway to change the way the church deals with singles. And it involves an effort from the northeastern United States, the mid-Atlantic states, to come together into what they're calling a singles hub for that area, and having activities that aren't necessarily conferences, but are, would attract people from all over the area. I think it's a fascinating idea. There are a lot of people that are interested in wanting to know what about. There are also some frustrations that come out when you get a lot of people together, especially people who are in leadership positions in their stakes with respect to the singles. And, I just think that it would be really effective if these people would take those frustrations out of that meeting. We really need to be focused on coming together and figuring out, okay, what are we going to do to bring people together for an activity? Instead of working with that end, we're talking about the frustrations that we're having with the individual challenges that we have ministering to singles in our own individual stakes. And I think those conversations need to be taken out of that meeting and into this forum. That's part of why I started Join the Journey Radio so many years ago. So, yeah, just an invitation. Can we if you're involved with, leadership for a singles group, just come here. Take the concerns here. Come join the live stream. Put your concerns in the chat. If you're watching the video after the fact, put your comment down below the video. We'll respond, right? And I invite you, come on the program. Let's get together and have a conversation that can help not just you with your individual challenges, but also help other Latter-day Saint singles elsewhere, because I guarantee you, um, you know, it's not that different. I've lived all over this country and I've seen the same things everywhere. So the challenges you're dealing with, they have solutions. They're all rooted in the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, and that's part of why I offered Join the Journey Radio to everyone, because this this is the forum I developed for that very reason, so that we could have solutions, so that we could grow our singles groups. And we're going to talk today about 10x growth for our singles groups. So, you know, let's just dig into this, right? Let's just dig into this, um, because I want to set this up. I'm going to be sending out an invitation to the larger group within the hub that I was talking about earlier. That, hey, come bring your issues here. Let's talk about it here. Let's find solutions together. Let's lift each other up, and let's, in the process, lift the other singles that we're trying to minister to up. And let's just all come together and be one. We're going to talk about being one today. Uh, you know, but just come to the program. Just come here and let's have these discussions here. That's why I have this set up. You know, uh, for those who aren't familiar with the history of Join the Journey Radio, I mean, it started as a blog that I personally, it was like a personal blog that I started back in 2012. And it was actually December 12th, 2012. It's like, uh, how could you not do something on 12/12/12, right? And at the time, I was really frustrated with a single sister who had turned me down. Um, she basically rejected one of my dating invitations, and I just got fed up with it, and I just got so frustrated that nothing seemed to be going right for me, and I said I need an outlet. And I thought, well, why don't you start a personal blog and just start, releasing whatever it is that's inside of you, and maybe that can, so 12/12/12 it started, and then we came into to 2013, and I was you know, just blogging away every day. You know, and I wasn't doing it every day. I was doing it every week, but I was thinking about it every day. And, those first blog posts were absolutely atrocious, which is why I kept them to myself. I took it down at the beginning of 2014. I reinvented the blog, called it Join the Journey Radio, because I had in mind eventually evolving into a regular weekly radio program where we talk about LDS singles life and LDS singles issues. And eventually I moved into that audio environment. And then I added video a little bit later. So 2016, I had the audio podcast that I developed. And then there was the addition of video in 2018. I added video. I started putting videos up on YouTube, and then eventually, YouTube started thinking that they were the copyright police, and they started doing what they do with that. And so I decided, some of the videos that I wanted to make, they didn't want to put up. They wouldn't let me put them up because it was a copyright violation. So I decided, yeah, I'm just going to get another outlet. So that's when I started the channel on Rumble. And, I've just been putting stuff out, and it's been really up and down. Really, the thing more than anything is my PhD program that's made this a roller coaster ride. So my output for the last, last few years hasn't been what it was originally. But, I see live streaming as the future, and so that's where I'm trying to move now. So yes, let's come together, right? It's not just an audience. It's not just about me stroking my ego. I'm not making any money off of this. I mean, since I reinvented the blog back in 2014, right? You can see that. I mean, go back and look at those old blog posts. They're there on the website, jointhejourneyradio.com. they're there on the website, and you can see that, I put all this stuff up. I'm not making a dime off of any of this. In fact, most of what I put up gets zero comments. Zero comments, zero reads. Many of the videos I post, zero likes, zero watches. I'm not doing this for me. Like, if I were doing this for me to stroke my ego, I wouldn't be doing this right now, because it's obviously not stroking my ego if nobody watches, if nobody reads, if nobody comments. Obviously, I'm doing this because I care about LDS singles. And I believe I have solutions that can resolve pain. Pain that you feel as a leader trying to minister to other singles, but also pain of just being a Latter-day Saint single. And so that's what we talk about here on Join the Journey Radio. I'm trying to offer solutions, and all the infrastructure that I've built up to provide this platform for providing these solutions, it costs me money every year. I lose money. So I'm not making any money. If anything, I'm losing money. This is a profit loss, not a gain, right? So I'm actually sacrificing, giving. And again, all of this since 2014, when I reinvented the blog and Join the Journey Radio came into existence. So we're sitting here in 2025. I've been doing this for more than a decade. I'm doing this because I care about LDS singles, and I want to help resolve the pain, and I want to help bring joy into their life. And there is joy to be had. And so today, let's talk about some of that joy. And some of the joy that we can't have, we actually take ourselves away. We actually disqualify ourselves from the joy. We take ourselves out of the space where we can receive that joy. And we do it with the way that we think. We do it by the boxes that we put other people into and the boxes we put ourselves into. We human beings are naturally hardwired for social interaction and connection. And of course, we all don't need the same amount to satisfy our basic needs. Some can get by with just a little, because the size of their cup is similar to the little Dixie cups that I remember getting when I was, going to the dentist office as a kid. Little tiny things. We all know people like this. They hardly speak, not because they're shy, although they might be that too, but it's simply because they don't feel the need to speak, right? For them, a little social interaction goes a long way. In contrast, others need more socialization. Their social cup is the size of a 72-ounce Big Gulp from 7-Eleven. Still, others need even more. They have a social cup the size of a tanker truck, if not larger. While each of us may require a different amount of social interaction in order to satisfy our basic need, that condition presents us with two truths. First, regardless of the size of their social cup, when people get their social cup filled, the normal thing to do is to stop seeking ways to fill it. This means that they stop expanding their social circles because their needs are met, a condition which has far too often been described by others outside those social circles as cliquish behavior. Such judgments are rash and, as demonstrated, a misinterpretation of normal human behavior. Nevertheless, those judgments create difficulties for leaders, especially those single adult reps charged with leading LDS singles groups. And second, because people have agency, not everyone is going to interact with others in ways that fill their social cup. Because of our natural hardwiring, we need to involve other people in our lives in order to have our best life. Yet different people have different agendas, and sometimes people choose against meeting your needs. Unfortunately, within LDS singles groups, many of these people choosing not to meet the social needs of their peers do so because of the way they think. They've put other people into a box that encourages them not to reach out and minister to their needs. Now, it doesn't matter whether those peers actually belong in that box. What matters is their perception, because people respond to their perception and not to their reality. Ironically, by consistently responding to the same perception, people transform that perception into their reality, even if that reality differs substantially from the reality in which everyone else around them lives. But normal people will always respond accordingly to the actions that they perceive in others, regardless of what reality in which they're living. And the result is that many LDS singles are not getting their needs met. Their suffering is all unnecessary. Think about it. These brothers and sisters, some of them among the very noblest sons and daughters of our Heavenly Father, are needlessly suffering with unmet needs because those who have the ability to meet those needs do nothing. And far too often, those who have the ability to minister effectively do nothing simply because their thinking just isn't aligned with the most effective ways of seeing and meeting the needs of LDS singles. Their thinking puts people into boxes which restrict vision and hence awareness both of what needs to be done to help and of what can be done to help. How do we overcome these challenges within LDS singles groups? Well, first, let's understand that agency is both a restriction and an opportunity. You can't do much to change others. That's the restriction. But you can do a lot to change yourself, and that's the opportunity. Part of that opportunity contains this truth. When you change yourself, you give other people permission to change themselves. By being an example, you show them the path to follow. And the path we all need to follow is one that declares we need to ditch the boxes. Now, before I go any further, let me be abundantly clear, or at least as abundantly clear as I can be. If you are a stake or ward rep charged with ministering to other LDS singles living in your local communities, what you really need to conquer the challenges we have been describing is a sense of community between LDS singles. Community provides the solution for ensuring that LDS singles can get their social needs and many other needs that they have filled. And not just filled once, like parching thirst at an oasis as they journey through a vast desert wasteland, which, let's be honest, many LDS singles feel like singles life is just that, a vast desert wasteland. But they get to parch their thirst again and again and again and again. Now, here's the thing about community. You will never build it by accident. Community is always built with intention. That means you can't just model effective behavior and hope that it rubs off on everyone else around you. You must tackle the issue head on by talking directly with those in your singles group about the very principles I will be sharing with you here today. So let's dig into this. Let's start here. LDS singles are rife with boxes. We have your YSA, your SA, your mid-singles, your senior singles, your in-between singles. Whatever happened to coming together and being one? I'm sure we're all familiar with D&C 3827, which says, I say unto you, be one, and if ye are not one, ye are not mine. And then there's the whole of the Apostle Paul's letters in the New Testament, which testify that true disciples of the Lord do not divide themselves one against another, because we all have a role to play in advancing God's work. I note especially 1 Corinthians 15. Now, I understand that these groupings that we make are administrative tools. When Sister Kristen Yee spoke at the DC Singles Conference this past summer, that's June 2025, in case you're watching this after 2025, she openly acknowledged that these groupings make administrating easier, but they are in no way a reflection of our identity. They're in no way eliminate or erase our status as beloved children of God. I totally agree with that. At the same time, the persistence of these groupings has influenced many to adopt less effective ways of thinking that in turn have us LDS singles and those who interact with us placing other people into boxes. So I repeat my earlier question. Whatever happened to coming together and being one? Answer, it went the way of the dinosaur, because singles groups are perceived to be about finding an eternal companion. Period. Full stop. The larger LDS subculture has traditionally centered on being married with kids, and that perception drives how we perceive singles and singles groups. No wonder so many LDS singles who want to fit into the larger culture, view singles life as something from which they need to escape. And no wonder so many LDS singles find LDS singles life so challenging. Remember, people respond not to reality, but to their perception of reality. So if we see LDS singles life as something undesirable, then we're not going to want it. If we want anything, it'll be to run away from it. It will feel right for us to do so because that action aligns with our perception of LDS singles life as something from which to escape. Additionally, our focus determines our reality. So if we're focused on how undesirable our situation is, then our reality will be undesirable. And that perception of reality provides even more fuel to the fire, stoking the engine that drives our desire to escape LDS singles life. But we can flip that around. The same mechanisms at work in driving us to want to escape LDS singles life can be used to bring us to want to embrace LDS singles life. If we can perceive the good and indeed the pure joy to be found in LDS singles life, and that's what Join the Journey Radio is all about, helping you see and find that joy in LDS singles life. If we can perceive that, then we can respond differently. We see something desirable, something we want to run towards and not away from. And when we make that our focus, then our reality becomes something desirable in itself. Now, let me pause here to provide you with a much needed clarification because I know that some of you out there are going to misunderstand what I just said. I am in no way advocating against marriage and family life. I am not suggesting in any stretch of the imagination that living life as a single adult is equivalent or superior to marriage and family life. Marriage and family life are central to the plan of our Heavenly Father for His children, as President Oaks declared in his most recent General Conference address, and that includes those of us who are presently without an eternal companion by our side. At the same time, the lack of an eternal companion does not make us defective or deficient, but it does make us different. And it does present us with a reality and challenges that those who have marriage and family life simply do not have. That is not to say married people with families don't have challenges in their lives. Of course they do. I'm simply saying that LDS singles life with its challenges is different than married and family life and its challenges. And when LDS singles with less effective ways of thinking see those challenges of LDS singles life, those less effective ways of thinking urge them to run away and try to escape the challenges, when the more effective course of action is actually just the opposite. They need to flip that around. They need to turn and run towards the challenges and seek to embrace them. Now, that's much easier to do when the people around LDS singles, and particularly other LDS singles, are acting in ways that encourage them to adopt more effective ways of thinking, ways that encourage a focus on the right perceptions. That's why we all need to ditch the boxes. It's much easier to be united when everyone around us has the mentality of truly coming together and being united. And it all starts inside each one of us. We need to exemplify to others how they should be. We also need to talk openly about the nature of habit and foster awareness that encourages others to adopt more effective habits. You see, about 95% of everything we do is out of habit, and that includes how LDS singles interact with one another. If you want to build the community that will best feed the needs of LDS singles, you simply must have direct conversations with them about their habits and how they interact with each other. Yes, but more importantly, habits and how they think about themselves, about what it means to be a single Latter-day Saint, and about LDS singles life. Otherwise, they'll just keep on keeping on with their less effective habits of thinking that drive less effective actions that make life harder for everyone. So, what less effective habits of thinking do LDS singles have, and what more effective habits do they need to adopt in their place? For years here on Join the Journey Radio, I've discussed answers to this question, and today we're going to talk about one particular answer to this question, which is something we've discussed before here on the program. It's three main perspectives that LDS singles everywhere generally take with LDS singles groups and attending activities, conferences, and whatever. Okay, number one is the dating forum. Number two is the activity club. Number three, the support community. Now, here's how they typically operate. Now, I said earlier that singles groups have typically been about getting married. So the first perspective the dating, dating forum, is the natural outgrowth of that thinking. The dating forum is the perspective that singles groups exist to make it easier to find someone to date. So what do? They attend singles wards, which should be utterly abolished from the face of the earth. But that's a conversation we've had before on Join the Journey Radio, and we can have again later. But they also attend singles activities, whether they're in one of these, singles wards or not. They attend singles activities with the idea of finding their special someone. They attend singles conferences with the idea of finding their special someone. They show up, look around, and if they don't see what they want, they leave, right? They don't see anyone enticing. So then they leave. They don't come back. Of course, it should come as no surprise that many LDS singles find themselves frustrated with that effort. So much so that they begin to embrace a second perspective, which is the activity club. So instead of showing up looking for a date, they show up looking for a good time. Typically, they spend their time during the activity with a small group of friends who are all just looking to enjoy themselves, and that's what they do. They enjoy themselves. Now, neither the dating forum nor the activity club foster a sense of community among LDS singles. These perspectives leave many LDS singles to fend for themselves in meeting their needs, and that often means many suffer the pain of unmet needs. And what always pains me about that all too common situation is the truth that this suffering is completely unnecessary. It's not happening because the single adults need to learn something that they need to grow, although they can learn and grow from these experiences. No, it's happening because LDS singles, by and large, are living their lives out of habit, ingrained in less effective thinking about LDS singles groups and LDS singles life that fosters perspectives like the dating forum and the activity club. It doesn't have to be that way. There is a third perspective, which I call the support community. Notice that the first two perspectives center on self. The dating forum is about me showing up to find a date for me. And the activity club is about showing up to find a good time for me. The third perspective, the support community, centers on others. They show up because they want to minister to others. They want to contribute to others. They want to make a difference in the life of others. When the more common perspective LDS singles take to participating in singles activities and singles groups are about me, the more effective perspective is really about we. Obviously, that third perspective in the support community, that's the one we should embrace. But how does that happen? As I stated earlier, community never happens by accident and always by intention. So first, you must get leadership on board. The church is a top-down organization. People down below tend to align themselves to an effort better when it comes from above them. The LDS singles in your singles group must perceive your singles group as a support community and not a dating forum or activity club. And that happens most easily when stake and ward leaders support the effort. Now, that means two things. One, stake leaders need to voice support for LDS singles having their own community in which their needs as LDS singles can be more effectively met. And let me, remind you that I clarified earlier, I'm not proposing that singles life is equivalent to or superior to married life. But there's some needs that we have as singles that are only going to be met when we have our own community where we interact with each other within our own space. So that's number one. They need to voice support for that. And two, those same leaders need to embrace the thinking that's aligned with the support community perspective. They themselves need to see singles activities as a means to the end of meeting the needs of singles and not as an end in itself. And too often, leadership is guilty of that. Leadership looks at activities as an end. And that just feeds into the perspective of the dating forum and the activity club. You're never going to get the community that you need if you look at activities as an end unto themselves. You have to see them as a means to the end. They're channels by which we minister to each other. And it's not just leaders ministering to singles. It's singles ministering to singles. Everyone's ministering to everyone. Everyone's helping everyone. Everyone's lifting everyone. That's building community, right? So stake single communities do not exist solely to plan activities. They they exist to meet the needs of singles in ways that only singles can understand, because you have to experience being older and single in a culture centered on what you don't have in order to fully understand and comprehend what it means to be older and single in a culture centered on what you don't have. Now, what stake leadership has that vision? Singles leadership must communicate that vision to the other singles, and they do that by overtly talking about it and practicing it. You really have to take the bull by the horns here, because you're dealing with the way people think and with their habits. Those don't change without a head-on confrontation. But when you can get people to come together for we instead of me, what comes organically from that is simply miraculous. It's truly beautiful to behold when you can get this going. Again, the biggest obstacle will be the propensity to put people and even programs into boxes. Singles groups are just about giving singles a place to congregate, say some. They're on their own for anything more. Such persons relegate singles groups into a box in which a true support community doesn't fit. Others want to abandon their comfortable perspectives, or rather they don't want to abandon their comfortable perspectives that prioritize me over we. They just haven't progressed enough in their eternal journey to want that, right? So they want to stay in their box that provides them with justification for staying comfortable, and leave others in their box to fend for themselves. If we truly believe in singles groups as support communities, we'll throw our boxes away. So what if the mid-singles and senior singles have different interests? Right? Those don't matter one whit when we participate for we instead of me. Let me illustrate that point with a story. Many years ago, when I was a stake single adult rep, we decided to host a dinner in the hopes that we could get more of our singles to come out and participate. One such single from my own ward did. He was an older brother whose wife had died some years before. Now, he's a man, right? He's going to come out for free food. That's pretty much a given. So we could hook it with that, right? But because he was married in the temple, he didn't think of himself as single, right? He's, I'm still married. And so coming to an activity where singles found other people to date, because that's his thinking of it, right? That was abhorrent to him. This man's story is quite common, but are you seeing how the ways we think and the boxes we stick ourselves and others into get in the way of us coming together? Now, I decided to approach this brother and minister him in a way that would encourage him to change the way he thought. So after talking to him a little bit, I asked him if he knew the single sister in our ward who had just joined the church recently. Of course, he said yes. I then described for him the joy that I had found that it was for me to witness her spiritual growth as she attended our weekly ward FHE group. And I finished by inviting him to be a part of that. With your knowledge of and experience in the gospel, I told him, you could make a contribution to her growth as a new member. Would you believe me if I told you he showed up the next Monday night? He did. And the result was an experience I will never forget. When we invite others to place we over me, to make a contribution to something larger than themselves, most will respond positively. And when LDS singles start congregating to help one another and to lift one another and to minister to one another, it's simply electric. The energy that it creates is just overwhelmingly powerful. And it's magnetic too. We had people naturally coming to participate, some of whom were less active, but became active because of the community we were building. This is the secret behind 10x growth for LDS singles groups. People naturally want to be loved and supported. So when you build a community that does precisely that, people naturally gravitate to it. When I started my effort as a state single adult rep, we had 3 people attending activities. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3. I sound like the owl from that old time 70s, TV commercial I remember seeing on Saturday mornings when we, get up and watch cartoons on Saturday morning, and there was that Tootsie Pop commercial with the owl. I know I'm dating myself, but can any of you from my generation, you understand what I'm talking about? The owl with the Tootsie Pop, and the little kid comes up. Hey, Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, and then he cracks into it because he can't, he got to get to the center. And he hands a stick back to the kid. He says, 3. That's how many people we had attending our activities, on the monthly activities that we planned. 3. A year later, after I started, we had 30 people attending activities. Now, I'm not going to count them just like we did with the 3, because I don't have that many fingers and toes. But going from 3 to 30 is 10x growth, and that was in just 1 year. And it happened when we LDS singles ditched the boxes into which we were placing people, ourselves and others, and changed the way we thought about LDS singles life. We embraced the perspective of the support community. It made what we did about we and not about me. Adopting the support community perspective means that we change ourselves fundamentally within. It means laying aside our own agendas so we can serve and truly give of ourselves to others. It means foregoing the pursuit of our own needs as we surrender ourselves to love and to the pursuit of meeting the needs of others. The real miracle in all of this is that putting away the dating forum and the activity club and all our other agendas meant to serve ourselves actually ends up meeting our own needs in the end, and it does so in ways that all those self-serving agendas never could. So, let's ditch the boxes. We all have that same perspective of seeing everyone as a brother or sister and placing we before me. We can transform our singles groups into true communities of support because we will have discarded the perspectives that blind us to the needs of others. We can come together and truly love one another, and that will bring us more joy in our journey. Well, peeps, that's all we have for this episode of Joy in the Journey Radio. Thanks to all of you for joining in today. Let's see, let's check the chat here real quick and see if there's anything here. And I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so that's okay. If you have something you wanted to share about the program today, we're going to post this video up and just put a comment down below, and we're happy to help. If you want to see a different topic or question about LDS Singles Life addressed in the program, leave a comment down below the video. We'll look at it and we'll see what we can do to respond with that. If there's something we can do to help you overcome the challenges of LDS Singles Life, yep, you got it. Leave a comment down below. And for those of you who don't want your message to us to be read by the world because you may be inadvertently shy and introverted, we respect that. Go to the contact page on our website, jointhejourneyradio.com. And, it's the place where you go to watch the live streams. They're on their website. And there's a contact page there on the website at jointhejourneyradio.com. Go to the contact page. You'll see a form where you can fill out whatever message it is you want to send to us. And only our eyes will see that message. It will be posted to a video for the world to see. So if that's, the route that's more comfortable for you, then, hey, go for it and make that happen, right? So, as always, don't remember to like, share, subscribe. Help the algorithms help us to get this, powerful message of help and sustenance and support and all the good stuff out to other LDS singles, because there's a lot of us that are hurting, and it's needless. Like I said, it's needless. And we can stop that. We can relieve the pain. We can come together, right? Because that's what this forum is all about. This forum is about coming together and helping us find solutions to our problems and embracing the joy that is to be had. So until next time, this is your host reminding you there is joy to be had all along the journey. So take that joy and journey on.
Yeah, we did it. We did it. Come on. Give me some. Give me some. Give me some. Give me some of that. Yeah. Woohoo! I will see you cats on the flip-flop later.